I'm Stuart Sinclair. I'm a writer and journalist at A2. And again, welcome to another one of our A2 forums. And today we're going to be talking about pro bono legal services. So we're going to explore the challenges, possibilities, obstacles, and opportunities of these services. And to help shed some light on the subject, we're joined by Kennedy Moores Gardner, who is an attorney with the Illinois-based nonprofit Equity Legal Services, LLC. And if her Zoom link works out and we could track her down, we'll also be speaking with Catherine Eagland, chair of the NAACP Board's Environmental and Climate Justice Coalition and co-founder of the Mississippi-based ECHO or ECO. I apologize. I sometimes get it the right one way and sometimes I mix it up the other way. So someone please feel free to correct me on the pronunciation. It's 3 E's, CHO. And they're going to talk about their experience pursuing social justice issues through the legal system. And with that, we're going to start things off with Kennedy. And so once again, thank you for being here. And are you all set up?
I should be good to go. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay,
fantastic.
perfect.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to start off the conversation by asking if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and what y'all do at Equity Legal Services.
For sure. Yeah, so I'm a staff attorney with Equity Legal Services. We are also a small but mighty group of folks. It's actually just 5 of us on our team. So myself and Nicole Nelson, who couldn't be here today, she's the actual founder of Equity Legal Services. She founded Equity Legal Services back in 2018, kind of as a fluke, to be honest. She was working at another legal nonprofit, Land of Lincoln Legal Services, if you all are familiar with that, in the southern part of Illinois. And at the time, she had an individual walk into her office and just let her know about some issues that he was having. And that's one of our first plaintiffs, Walter Bird, in our ongoing federal litigation. So Walter let Nicole know that he was having, every time it rained, he was having severe flooding in his home, to the point where the water would come into the home, but also it would cause sewage to overflow in his home. So he was having sewage come up in his toilets, in his sinks. The kitchen sinks are the worst a lot of the time. And then in the basement as well, all through the crawl space of the houses, things like that. So Nicole was like, oh my goodness, this is not good. Are there other people who are facing the same issues as you? And he's like, yes, our community has been facing this for a long time. So Nicole knew, okay, we've got to do something about this. So based on that conversation, she left and joined and started Equity Legal Services and decided to start organizing within the Centreville community. So Nicole got together with a group of other residents that were having similar issues, and they all indicated a need to organize around these issues and to force the city and the municipality to actually invest in their community and the stormwater and sewage issues that they were having. So based out of that interaction, Centreville Citizens for Change was created, and that is a community-driven and community-led organization, 501c3 nonprofit that originally started with Walter and that core group of individuals who were facing these horrible issues. And it grew into this larger organization that has over 30 families that are members. And so they advocate within the community and federally for the municipalities and the state and the water district and the sewage district and everyone involved to actually invest in the infrastructure and fix the issues that they're facing. So that's a little bit about ELS. So that, like I said, there's 3 of us attorneys, Khalil and myself and Nicole, and then we have a community organizer, Malika, who's wonderful, and then an organization manager, so Jeannie, who's also wonderful. So a woman-led, woman-run organization, and we just do the best we can on a daily basis to help folks. We actually had quite a bit of horrible flooding on Tuesday of last week. I don't know if y'all saw that in the news. There was a disaster declaration in the county, actually, where we are based. And so we are currently organizing cleaning supplies and pickup for the residents so that they can start cleaning their homes, because many of them had sewage overflows and severe flooding during that time period. So this has been an ongoing issue for, actually, they can trace it back about 50 years that this began. And the community is 95% Black. They're 50% homeowners. And mostly elderly folks. And so this is a really severe problem. And these folks are scared that they're not going to get to see a day whenever this is fixed. And so that's our main focus right now is the Centreville litigation. And so we do that all on a pro bono basis. And then we help individuals throughout other parts of the community that have just legal questions that they need assistance with. We focus on low income folks who are not usually represented within the legal system. And that's kind of what we do at Equity Legal Services. Happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you so much for that rundown, Kennedy. And so just one follow-up question on that. Do you all work specifically in Illinois, or do you work more broadly than that by any chance?
Yes, we work specifically in Illinois, focusing in Southern Illinois. The community we work within is called Cahokia Heights now, formerly Centreville. I am licensed in Missouri, so I actually came from a fair housing background. Prior to my work at ELS, I was an eviction defense attorney and a fair housing litigator in Missouri. So I have that background, as well as my colleague Kalila. She was actually my boss at the last place that we were at too. I came with her over to Equity Legal Services, and she trained me in fair housing litigation. So I do work in Missouri if we need it, but mostly we're focused in Illinois at this point. There's just so much work to be done where we're at right now.
Uh, there's a question popped up in the chat. I have one of my own, but just from Ramona, did you work for EHOC?
Yes, I did, Ramona. Yep, I worked for EHOC until October of last year.
What was EHOC, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, EHOC is the Metro St. Louis Equal Housing and Opportunity Council. And so we represented folks who were facing discrimination in housing, but also I was in the small little department for eviction defense for most of my time there. So I was representing folks facing eviction and who were being discriminated against in housing. So we did investigation, testing, litigation, all of the above at EHOC while I was there too.
Fantastic. One brief note to everybody, just to let you know, unfortunately, Catherine can't make it, but that's okay because, again, Kennedy still has plenty that she can tell us, and I'm excited to hear everybody else's questions for her. I also wanted to note that I put the link to Equity Legal Services in the chat for anyone who needs it, as well as the link to the Anthropocene Alliance page for Centreville Citizens for Change. If you wanted to find out more about that story, there's even a little bit of a video there that you can watch. Could you expand, Kennedy, a little more on the process of litigation with Centreville and one where you're at with that now and sort of what some of your lessons learned have been through that process, particularly for other communities who are either looking to explore legal routes for their work, which I'm sure many people here are going to have their own questions on that. But I just wanted to start off with that, if that's okay.
Absolutely. So yeah, there have been a lot of challenges in this work, and I've talked to Clela and Nicole more about this lately because I actually joined the team fairly recently. I started with ELS as a legal intern when I was still at EHOC, so we were working on the litigation even back then. Originally, the litigation was filed in 2020, so that was the first case for two plaintiffs, two of the first individuals that came forward with these issues. We filed that litigation in 2020 with a couple different claims involved, some mostly torts claims, takings claim, an eminent domain claim, stating that the sewage and stormwater was taking their homes from them, right? And so that litigation has been ongoing since 2020, so it's been a long time. And then in 2021, once the larger community decided, oh, we want to be involved in the litigation too, we really think that this is the best way to effectuate change and to force the hand of the municipality because they weren't doing anything even with the organizing, right? Then there's about 27 to 30 individual plaintiffs that we represent in the second litigation, which also has all of those torts claims, but an additional Clean Water Act claim. So that is a lot. Like I said, that is a lot of individuals to represent between the three of us, right? And so it's really wonderful that, and so with that Clean Water Act claim too, we also have a partner, Earth Justice, who is representing Centreville Citizens for Change in that litigation as well. So we've learned that partnering with folks is very helpful. So in our initial litigation, we had partnered with the NAACP as well. And so having other people that can take on some of that litigation burden is extremely helpful. I will say a huge challenge is funding always, right? We're trying to fund our individual salaries, but we're also trying to fund things like this cleanup work and getting folks warm blankets for the winter if they need them and helping them replace furnaces, things like that, right? Because there's always something with this flooding and it doesn't stop. So we've been really looking into different funding streams lately, and we're really trying, we try to keep the funding as ethical as possible too, right? We want to be taking money from people who believe in what we're doing. That's been a big challenge. And I think just capacity wise, it's a big challenge too, right? There is a lot of organizations that say they want to help with these environmental litigation, environmental racism cases. And then when push comes to shove, people don't have capacity for it. They don't have the time to assist. And so we've just really been trying to find avenues to expand our capacity, right? Because three of us attorneys and I guess 27 litigants, 27 to 30 litigants, that's quite a bit. But right now, our litigation is actually stayed by the federal court, so we are paused for the time being, as the judge is deciding on what to do moving forward and hoping that EPA and DOJ get involved. I will say just another big challenge that we've faced, and a challenge that all legal nonprofit organizations face, legal aid, is working within the system that isn't built to serve them, right? Our legal system is not built to serve people of color, to serve disabled people, to serve anyone that is marginalized. And I saw that in the eviction defense space too, and in the fair housing space. We are constantly fighting against judges, other attorneys, all of the above. And so we've learned that in the federal litigation too, is yeah, our community looks a lot different than who's on the bench, right? So you're
Mhm.
always going to be coming up against those issues as well. Yeah, happy to answer further questions on that.
Sure. And with that, I'd like to open it up to the group. Again, the way we structure these for those who are new to this to the A2 forum is this is intended to be a peer-to-peer conversation. So please feel free to jump in and uh, let us know your experiences or ask Kennedy any questions about her work in particular or just these pro bono services in general. Couple
Hi,
questions.
Kennedy.
Go ahead.
Hi, Andrea.
Hi. Just curious as to, have you guys determined what's causing it to happen every time it rains? Is it infrastructure issues? I know in our community, a particular area where that occurred was because of a sewer break that caused the backing up. And we have a high water table. So yeah, but I'm just curious, has it been determined what's causing this to happen so that even with the lawsuit, the whole idea is to fix it, right?
Yep,
To try and resolve
absolutely.
the issue. So
Absolutely. And that's the whole point of the litigation, right? That's the question, what's causing it and who's causing it. But what
okay,
we've seen is a lack of maintenance for the past 50 years that is causing this to happen. So there's broken pipes everywhere. There's ditches. So the way that Centreville system works is it's on a gravity system. So there are pump stations throughout the community, but also it's on a ditch system. So you don't have like the normal stormwater drains like you see in other communities with the concrete streets and everything, right? That's not how it's set up in Centerville. It's supposed to be a non-combined sewer and stormwater system,
Yes,
but over the years it's become a combined system. And
okay,
so
yes.
now what we have is these ditches that were not cleaned out for decades, right? The ditches that
oh,
grew and grew and grew. And so you have this water sitting in these ditches, not feeding out to the larger tributaries, right, down the way. And you have manholes that are covered in concrete because they thought that would fix the problem. You had just a lack of maintenance and
lack of
a lack of
maintenance.
investment in the community for a long period of time. So
Gotcha.
that's truly what we think caused these issues. Yeah.
Okay. And just curious, is there legislation, state legislation or city legislation around maintenance, infrastructure maintenance, storm drain,
There are rules that they should be
catch
following. And
basins?
yeah,
Okay,
and the Illinois EPA is involved now with that, right? Like they're supposed to be monitoring these things too, especially when it comes to the Clean Water Act. So
got
you're
it.
not supposed to have sewage water coming up in your home, and you're not supposed to be drinking sewage water. And our community doesn't drink the water that comes from their taps. So that's another thing that we've been dealing with lately is they've been drinking bottled water for the past 4 to 5 years at this point, and a lot of them longer than that, right? But that's when we got involved in trying to get them bottled water. And so we've been constantly fighting for funding for bottled water drives too, because every month we have a lot of community members that rely on that water pickup to be able to drink the water, and they can't feed it to their pets. It makes their pets sick. They have been getting sick from the water. We have quite a few H. pylori infections in the community. We had a hit for E. coli recently, which is really scary. So yeah, the bad water is infiltrating everything and it's making people sick. And so it's a public health crisis at this point too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of questions in hand, so we'll go to Joyce because she was up there first, and then we'll pull some from the chat as well.
I wanted to know, is there another legal office that you can recommend who's doing the same pro bono work that you are doing in the Hampton Roads area or nearby because of the fact Northern Virginia or somewhere like that
Hmm.
that you would recommend?
Yeah, I'd have to look into that, Joyce, but I can definitely do that. I've had a lot of contact with different legal aid organizations through the work that we did with EHOC. So I can definitely look into that and get back to you. I'm not that familiar with the Northern Virginia area.
Okay, legal aid in the Suffolk area closed up. I have an
Okay.
office, and then they closed up. I would say last year.
Okay.
They shut down altogether, and then there was another one that I knew about. They did the same.
Yeah.
So I would. That's why I think if we went outside the Hampton Roads area, we would have a better um, situation of getting some work done. But in the Hampton Roads area, they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. And that's unfortunately what's happening across the country with legal aid organizations right now. And it's really scary and sad because they're very necessary. Yeah, we have quite a few in Missouri, and some that I know in Southern Illinois, but that's what I'm most familiar with.
Okay. All right.
Just to pull a couple from the chat here, one which I think is a fairly quick question from Don. Do you give advice for people in other states?
We don't usually at this time, but if you have advice that you need that looks similar to like what we're doing in the community, we always are happy to give advice about community organizing, because what's happened in Centreville has been really beautiful, and something that we haven't seen a lot around the country is the community-led and community-centered organizing that built CCC. And so we're always happy to give advice on how to recreate that in other communities if people are interested.
And has the legal action led to other benefits or disadvantages? So I think that's referring specifically to the actions you guys are currently involved with.
Yeah, the legal action is hard, right? Because it is adversarial. So we are suing the municipality. We are suing the sewage utility. We are suing individual members of the government, the city government as well. And this community is very connected with each other, right? So some of our members grew up with the mayor of the town. Some of our members played football with them, right? So they all know each other, and they know each other very well, which has been difficult to say the least. They like to talk to each other, and we can't tell them, no, don't talk to your friends, right? But we can tell them, hey, you are actively suing them right now to effectuate your rights. So we need to be careful about what we say and when. So that's been difficult. And I think just the adversarial nature of it has been difficult. The city is not as willing to talk to us, right? They're not as willing to engage in collaborative conversations, which I can understand to an extent. But if both of our goals is to fix this for the people that are being harmed, then we should be able to work together, right? And it's always your hope that you don't have to resort to litigation, but in this situation, there was not help coming. And so it was the only choice. But yeah, and I mean, benefits, we've had a lot of national news coverage on this litigation. We've connected with other communities throughout the country that are doing similar litigation, which has been very helpful. And like I said, it's brought a lot of media attention to the Centreville community, which is great. Before the legal action was instituted, there was not a lot of movement in this area. So I do think that it's forced the hands of a lot of people. It's gotten the federal government involved. It's gotten the EPA involved, the DOJ, all of them, and a lot of our local officials as well, our senators and representatives. They have an eye on Centreville, and they try to communicate with us as best as possible. So it's brought a lot of people in that we didn't have contacts with prior.
I think that's a really interesting point just on how like even like stalled litigation or litigation that doesn't go the way you might hope it goes can still have these ancillary effects or strategic effects that can be beneficial. Um, Gloria, you've had your hand up there.
Hey, you told my story.
Yeah.
It's just not sewage coming up through my pipes, it's sewage all over my property, condoms hanging off my fences. You know, those wipes that you're supposed to be able to flush are all over the place in my community after a good rainstorm. 7 inches will do this.
Yeah.
But and they are concreting over the sewer manhole covers. But one of the things I wanted to bring to you, because I live in a horrible, I live in Pensacola, Florida.
Okay.
We have the worst water ever.
Yeah.
And we're the 11th most polluted county in the United States. Bottled water is not the answer.
Yeah.
There's too much stuff in it. There are some really great filters out there that I'm using. I'm not going to sell anybody on anything, but just filtering out fluoride.
Yeah.
The shower is where the filter needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
That our skin is our biggest organ, right?
Yep.
And so I would highly recommend getting some type of water purification
Yep.
into the homes. I'd also get Brita filters, won't take out lead, they won't take out PFOs, but there are some great ones that do.
Mm-hmm.
They're expensive at the first,
Yeah.
but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah.
So my dogs don't drink the water, wouldn't have it. So and the what I use is Agua Gear, and it's
Okay.
really good. And they have different stages of filtering. I get the best one there is, because I can.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But bottled water is not the answer, and they can't shower in it. You can't boil out the PFOs. You can't boil out the lead. It can't boil out the fluoride, and all of those things are toxic. So, Life Straw is pretty cool, but again, it doesn't take out the PFOs and those kinds of things that we're seeing more and more and more news about, even though they've been there forever.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to watch a great movie on it, docudrama, is Dark Waters. But that's where we really have to, bottled water is not the answer.
Yeah.
All we're doing is
Thank
buying
you.
plastic and drinking plastic.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for your work. I wish you were licensed here, because my house is one big sewage trap. It's horrid.
And
And
I'm
my
so sorry.
and I'm less than a quarter mile from the bay.
Okay.
So all of that dumping goes into the bay. And you brought up the Clean Water Act. I
Mhm.
get nowhere. My friends not only played football together, or our politicians didn't play football together, they were together forever. So
Yeah.
it was a tough battle. Thank you for your work. I'm glad you're young. You're gonna need it.
Of course.
Thank
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so sorry you're dealing with that. Yeah, you need an organization like ELS where you guys are. And yeah, we've figured out the similar issues with bottled water, right? We're really trying to get into those whole home filtration systems. They're just very expensive. So we're looking for funding for that right now, and grant funding for that, to try to get the whole community those, because it's way easier than the bottled water too, right? And we just had, so CCC just had a meeting recently where they brought up, we don't want to be putting plastic into the world, more plastic into the world, right? Like, we don't want to be using bottled water for everything. It's just been the easiest and most convenient at this time. But yeah, we're working towards that too. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Let's go to West Atlanta Watershed Alliance. I see the hand up there.
Yeah, this is Daryl. It really
Daryl.
reminded me of Catherine Flowers' work in Alabama, where they actually didn't have any sewer infrastructure at all.
Yeah.
Homes were straight piping, into the front yards, into basically the streets and the culverts and ditches. And so I know that her work really revolved around health, and working with the local health centers. And I was just going to ask, I don't know if that's always an approach, if that's an approach you're doing, but, that could be where some of the funding, to do maybe more of the infrastructure work, as well as, the new federal resources that are coming online.
Yeah.
You still have to work with the municipality, which is unfortunate, because I
Yeah.
certainly understand it. But yeah, I was just going to say, are you currently working, with some of your public health agencies, or maybe the river keepers, with respect to the litigation?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we've been in touch. So the The public health district close to us is called Eastside Public Health. They have been less than helpful, I will say. But we have gotten involved with a couple professors at Washington University in St. Louis who are doing testing on the water. So we've done some fecal coliform, E. coli testing. They're also testing stool samples of individuals so they can test how the water is affecting their gut microbiome. And they found so far that there is a higher rate of lower gut microbiomes in this community because of the water that's affecting them, right? So they're doing a study right now. They're actually in the community actively testing today and tomorrow and through the weekend. And we've also, so Senator Durbin and Senator Duckworth came in and they said, we're going to ask the CDC to get involved and do a health study in this area. We haven't heard anything from the CDC since then, but they did say that and they're trying. We've also been in touch with Illinois Department of Health, right? IDPH, Illinois Department of Public Health, and we're really trying to get them more involved in this as well. So when we see these tests that are coming up in the community that we're doing, like for fecal coliforms and E. coli, we're alerting them of those things as well. We have tried for a couple grants too that would partner with IDPH to try to get like I said, get them more involved in the community. It's been difficult. The public health districts have not been as helpful as we would like, but we have been in touch with Catherine Flowers too in Alabama, all these communities that have similar things going on. We're trying to connect with all of them, right? And see how they're doing it. So we've been in Mississippi too, where they're dealing with water and sewage. And then in Alabama, yeah, there's some folks in New Mexico. It's happening all over. Like Gloria said, in Florida, it's all over. And my colleague Kalila always says it should scare the part of my pun shit out of people because this could be happening anywhere, right? You are a couple decisions by the municipality away and a couple years of lack of maintenance away from this happening to everyone, right? So, but these are communities that people have chose not to invest in for a long time, so it's happening to them first, of course, as it does. Yeah, so we have been involved in trying to get the public health districts to take more notice of this. And EPA is too. There was a consent order for a little while trying to get them to regulate the water. And we're just going to continue doing more water testing to try to get it in front of funders, get it in front of legislators, get it in front of the public health district so they know that this is actually taking place. Because when they send their water utility out to test, they say they're not getting the same results, right? But we are doing the same tests as them and yeah, so we're working on that too.
Yeah, the citizen science piece is really critical because we noticed that when we started doing a lot of work in Atlanta, it changed the efficacy, I guess, of the way the government looked at the community. They didn't really look at them as the angry people anymore. They were citizen scientists now. So, getting the community to actually participate, which is a leap too, but getting them to participate in the science work actually changes the way people relate to them.
That's so true. That's so true, Dale. You're so right. Yeah. Getting the community to do, and we have a lot of folks that are always willing to go out and get the testing and do whatever is needed, but it's also draining on them, right? Like they have dealt with this for 40 plus years, and then they're being asked every day to show up to these meetings, to advocate for themselves, to retell their stories, to rehash their trauma. It's a lot for them. So we really try to be cognizant of that and ask different members of the board, different members of CCC when we get a chance, like, hey, can you come do this one? We know you guys just talked to this person recently. So yeah, it's difficult, but they're really great. And they're really great at advocating for their community. And it's just been a joy to see. So yeah, the citizen science piece is so important.
I'm going to grab a couple more questions from the chat here, and then we'll go on to Dawn as well. I see your hand up there. From the chat, we have a couple that I feel like are interconnected, and one so Patty O had asked whether the water can be filtered. I think you kind of discussed that a bit, but there's also two questions here. One from Demetra: how are the utility companies being held accountable? And then I think that connects to Harriet's question about, has there been any investment in the community water infrastructure as a result of the media attention and legal action? And would you recommend legal action to other groups, or are the disadvantages too great?
Yeah, those are great questions. So how are the utility companies being held accountable? Well, we're suing some of them, right? But for the other ones, really trying to drag them in the media. I hate to say it that way, but like that's what you have to do sometimes. The citizens are actually getting charged multiple bills for the services that they're not receiving right now. So they're paying 2 to 3 bills at a time for the sewage and water, which is absolutely insane. And I think that's one of the things that people should be most enraged about too. I'm like, they're paying money for a system that does not work and does not do what it's supposed to be doing, right? So we have a couple reporters that we work very closely with that put stories out in the Belleville News Democrat, and all the different newspapers local to us. We're trying to get more national media involved too. So we've been having some discussions with some national media outlets too, which is exciting. The more we can get it out there, the better. The utility companies know what they know what they're doing is wrong too. Like we've made it very clear to them as well. So if it's not litigation, we're sending them letters too and making them aware of what they're doing and how it's affecting the community. And the community, like I said, is great at advocating for themselves too. So they are calling the utility companies, they are going to their city council meetings, they are doing everything they can to advocate for a lowering of these rates, which we just heard that the water utility is going to be raising their rates soon too. And so we have to go fight that now as well. So that stuff just keeps happening, and that happens everywhere, right? But has there been any investment in the community water infrastructure as a result of the media attention, legal action? There has been a lot of money coming into the community from some earmarks through Senator Duckworth, for instance, has helped to get a lot of money earmarked for this community. The issue happens when that money does or does not reach the municipality, right? So we can't control that money, unfortunately. I wish we could, because we could get things done so much faster, I feel. But that goes through the municipality. And so they have to do certain things to draw down the funds. They have to do all of these plans. So it's going through, some of it comes through the Department of Commerce, some of it is coming through the Treasury, some of it's coming from all these different federal agencies, and they're having to draw down these funds in different ways. And they say sometimes they don't know how they do that. And then they have to propose projects, and they're working with the Corps of Engineers on certain things as well. So we're big part of my job too is to just manage and watch what they're doing on the side so that we can track where the money is going and where the spending is happening, right? Because on the ground, what we're seeing is these pumps that they're replacing, the new pumps they're putting in don't work, right? So they're shutting down. There's no power getting to them during storms. They're not replacing what they should be. The pipes that they put in are already cracking. So we're monitoring things like that. And so when they tell us, oh, we're getting a lot of money coming in and we're doing all these projects, we're like, well, these projects aren't actually helping like you say they are. So we have to really be vigilant about what they're telling us and what's actually happening on the ground, because a lot of these folks that are in charge of these projects too are not actively on the ground. So that's a big hurdle as well. Would I recommend legal action to other groups? Like I said earlier, I think it sometimes is the only option, right? After you've tried to advocate, after you've sent those demand letters, after you've really showed up in the community and you've organized with each other, I think sometimes it's the only way to go to get people to the table. And you would hope that in a lot of these legal actions, you end in some sort of settlement agreement, or you end in a collaborative way where people are coming together and trying to fix these problems, or you go to trial and you try to effectuate change that way. And so that's kind of where we're at this point. We're stalled and we're just waiting to see what happens next. But like I said, the litigation has brought a lot of attention, and it's getting to the municipality to do something, because it is in front of the judge and it is in front of the DOJ and the EPA, and they are saying you have to do something to fix this here. Whether their fixes are adequate or not, that's the other question, but it is making something happen.
And yeah, I like how that approach seems to take these like levers of like public media attention, litigation, back channel negotiations, and sort of moves them all forward in tandem rather than thinking of them as separate. At least that's what it sounds like to me.
Yes.
Let's go to Dawn. You've had your hand up there for a while.
Hi.
Dawn.
I know, well, my Stuart read my question off, asking if you help people in other states and everything. And I just got to ask, because I just feel stuck where I'm at right now, and I don't know where to go next. My community was once a golf course community, gated, with only one way in and one way out. Two developers bought land here. One has already built, fill and build homes. Another developer is slowly doing phases. And every time these developers clear cut an area, another area of our community floods. We are landlocked. A third of our community is up against the Waccamaw National Wildlife Refuge, which is federally protected land. And all the stormwater drains are being maneuvered to where the water is pushing out into the refuge, which is wetland. And when the wetland can't take anymore, it comes back into Island Green, my community. We have a creek that completely divides our community. It starts at the Waccamaw River, comes through the refuge and into our community. So when the Waccamaw River rises, Peach Creek rises. And if there's 100 acres of land that I'm trying to save. And we've had a hydrologist here saying, if more building happens here, we will flood even more. 3 inches of rain, a new area has flooded. We have one road that comes into our community that all these homes have to get out. We are not getting a second entrance and exit. The bylaws have been bypassed, which are a community with only one way in and out. It's 100 homes. Yeah. Before they started building, we had 1,250. We will have almost 2,000 homes if building continues. I recently finally got a lawyer to come out here and look at what's happening here. And he told me, when you have damages, let me know. Yeah. I'm trying to stop that from happening. Yeah. I mean, 3 inches of rain took out a new road that a member of our county council built. He foregoed his voting for what's happening here because he knew he was going to be building roads, his side business. All the council members say, we know it's a mess here, but what can we do? Well, speak out for your people, stand up for your people, do something. We go to them all the time and they, oh, well, we'll fix this, we'll fix that. Every time it rains, we watch to see where the water's coming up. Mm-hmm. There's a community next to us that has building is starting. Their stormwater drains are going to come over into our community, which will be even more of a mess. I have called governors, senators. I talked to so many people. I don't know where to go. Yeah. I don't know what to do. What's happening here is wrong. I filed FOIAs for 22 parcels in here. I got nothing. I asked our hydrologist, what do I ask for? He told me exactly what to ask for. I didn't get it. There's a member of our community who works for the engineer doing the work here. He has plans that he's showing everybody. Did I get those plans? No. The places that have already been built, I asked for something. The FOIA department gave me nothing. They tell me I need to talk to stormwater. I'm trying to, our hydrologist is trying, I asked him if he could please call the stormwater department, because I don't know if they're going to, I don't know the lingo.
Yeah.
I don't know what to ask for or if so, and I'm
FOIAs are
waiting.
hard.
I'm sorry.
FOIAs are really hard. We have similar issues with getting that
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
And I mean, well, the first time the South Carolina um uh I had help from the South Carolina um uh it's a I can't think of it. Michelle, maybe you can help me with the name, the pro bono legal.
Southern Environmental Law Center?
Yes, yes. The first time they filed for a FOIA for our community, and they didn't get it, they called us and asked why, and they were told they were secret plans. Secret plans for stormwater? Really? And now I'm getting nothing on stormwater. We had a meeting with the head of the stormwater department when the, the creek rose and we didn't even have rain. And he tells us, well, it's because of storms in North Carolina. And I'm like, so now we have to watch the weather in North Carolina to find out if we're going to flood. You know,
So John, you're hoping for advice on how to find legal help, or?
just something. Where do I go next? I don't know
You-
what to do when.
You and I are gonna meet tomorrow, number one, but Kennedy, do you have any thoughts?
I do. Well, I just saw that Demetra put in the chat a resource that I think would be super helpful, lawyersforgoodgovernment.org, and it says that they do work on wetlands, Don. I would recommend reaching out to them. I also think trying to reach out to NRDC or Earth Justice is always a good idea too, right? They're the big greens, but sometimes they get invested in these issues. I would also say, I know that you said you're doing a lot of work. Organize the community around you too, right? If you haven't already, create a citizen group of a few folks. It could just be even a few folks because you're more likely to get media attention that way, I will say.
Well, I'm sorry to.
No, go ahead.
The developer had me arrested after the road/bridge collapse. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of my community is afraid because of that happening to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just trying to save my community from flooding. You
Yeah.
know, just 3 inches of rain took out that road.
I know.
Yeah.
And you're doing incredible work.
Mm-hmm.
You really are.
It's frustrating, and I am sorry about, you know,
Get done.
but I really don't know where to go next when nobody will listen, you know, and for that lawyer to say, you know, after
Yeah.
I talked to him off and on for like a month, and he finally comes here and I'm showing him, you know, he's like, well, when you have damages, I'm trying to prevent that. We have elderly people who have lived here for a long time,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just what they're doing here is wrong. And the for this gentleman to have plans showing people, oh, this is what we're going to do next. It's going to be beautiful, whatever. Well, how come when I ask for them, I don't get these plans?
Mhm.
What are they trying to hide? You know, and
Don,
I
I'm gonna jump in here. One to say I'm sorry. I know it's a terrible situation. I also just saw Gloria's hand pop up, and I hope you won't mind if we give her a chance. She might have a question or something related to offer here. Is that okay? Go
yes,
ahead.
that's fine.
You know, am I muted? I'm fine.
You are.
Okay. I'm trying to be as proactive as I can to salvage my house and stop all of this. And I've done a lot of research. So I have bought and these things, these plugs, and I have more of them. They're 2-inch, 1-inch, and things like that you can put in your shower to stop water and sewage from coming up. Okay. And what I was doing before, I was putting sandbags on my shower. But they're only a couple of bucks, and you just stick them down, screw them down, and if they blow, then you've got bigger problems. And then also I'm building a berm around my home. Don't tell the city of Pensacola, although I know they can see it. But these are some of the proactive things that we can do now, and we can do it cheaper than this. Sandbags on your sink so water can't come up, or sewage can't come up. I have one for my washer. So I turn off all my water and then plug that exit valve. You know, I can only hope it works. But this is what we can do as citizens right now to help our environment and our homes temporarily until the developers stop having their way. Because in my community, they're building on floodplains, which is against NFIP regulations, against FEMA regulations, but they're allowing it to be done. So citizen activism is so crucial, absolutely. But until then, if we can get some stuff done to mitigate our own homes, these are the kinds of things I look at and go, maybe there won't be human waste in my house, even though I know there's going to be human waste all around my house. Thank you. I hope it helps someone.
Thanks. Gloria, one day I'm going to have to come down there and see the fortress you built because it sounds almost impenetrable. Kennedy,
It's Mardi Gras beads. I'm not kidding. It's big bags of Mardi Gras beads.
Kennedy, just one more question for you here. I was wondering if, sorry, give me one moment. There's a thing blocking it in the corner. Oh yeah, I would like to ask you about the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights work that y'all are doing. If you have anything you can add input on to that, it may relate to things people are focusing on this call.
Yeah, sure. So actually a couple of years ago, ALS got in contact with Lauren Bartlett, who's a professor at St. Louis University, and she does international human rights law. And I mean, we're trying to come at this thing from all angles, right? You have to. So we're like, all right, let's go international with it too. Let's bring in some advocacy in the international space. So Lauren has been working with ELS and with the Centreville community to put together I guess it's some sort of a complaint in front of the International Commission on Human Rights, and doing this in conjunction with other communities who are facing similar issues. So right now we're working to integrate other communities who are facing issues like Catherine Flowers down in Alabama, like the folks in Mississippi, like the folks in New Mexico. And I'm seeing, Dimitri, you have a lot of resources too, so I would love to talk to you about those as well. But yeah, so that's moving forward, and really what it'll be is hopefully we'll get a time slot to do a hearing in front of the commission and actually get to bring attention to what's going on in these communities throughout the country and bring some international attention to it. I think that'll bring media attention to it as well. So they aren't an active, like, legal entity that's bringing down decisions, right? But they can make a statement on behalf of what's happening in the community. So if we can get statements from all of these really important and super crucial organizations around the world and internationally, like we'll do it. So we are trying to hit this, like I said, from every angle. And so that's what Lauren and actually our interns are working on this summer. And that's what I've been in touch with Harriet about too. So any other folks that are a part of A2 that want to be involved in that work, we're happy to talk about it.
Well, thank you so much, Kennedy. And it looks like we're hitting right about the 2 o'clock mark here. So I want to be mindful of everybody's times. I know you've got busy lives, and hopefully you can sneak off to some cool water somewhere to cool down if you're in a hot place. But again, thank you so much again, Kennedy, for being here to chat with us all today. And we'll share around these resources with everybody, and hopefully you guys can give Kennedy's organization a little more of a look, and feel free to, again, share your leads, your connections in this work among one another, because as we can tell, there's clearly a huge need for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Right,
Thank
everyone
you.
have a fantastic day.